All right. Once again, warmest of welcomes to all of you. Um, Good to see some familiar and new faces. Yeah, welcome to the Social Media Strategy Masterclass. Um, Very excited to be sharing this stuff with you. It's definitely things that I would have loved to know earlier. It would have saved me a lot of guessing and lots of trying different strategies. Well, lots of trying different things that weren't really strategies. Um, So just a couple of housekeeping things. The masterclass is going to take approximately 60 minutes. I cannot promise to be exact with that time. If you need to go, obviously that's completely fine. I highly encourage you to grab pen and paper to write down any insights that come up. Um, During the call, I'll ask you to keep yourself muted, and there'll still be the opportunity to engage with me through the chat function. If you're watching the replay in the Facebook group, then feel free to engage in the comments, and I'll definitely respond. And there will be a Q&A in the end. So as I said, this was kind of unplanned. I wanted to stream the masterclass into the Facebook group, and yesterday I saw that it's no longer possible to stream Zoom meetings directly into Facebook groups. So here we are, and those who came live will have the opportunity to ask questions. Good. So I'll give you a quick overview of the stuff that we'll be covering today. First of all, I'll share who this is for. So who am I speaking to in this masterclass? And just a bit about myself, so you have a sense of like where I'm coming from, what my experience is. And then we'll start off by looking at the 5 most common mistakes that I see entrepreneurs making on social media, and that I definitely did, all of them. Um, and my goal is that by the end of the masterclass, so the 6 ingredients for a successful social media strategy, that they're to some degree like the response to those 5 most common mistakes, or like at the end, my goal is that you know how to do it better. And yeah, a couple of different things that we'll be looking at. One thing is I'll share like a very kind of zoomed out perspective of what is marketing, because obviously social media strategy is a marketing strategy, and I want you to understand what the essence of marketing is for me, because it made a big difference for me to understand that. And then we'll look at the 3 different groups that are part of everyone's audience and how you can talk to each of them and how you can help each of those groups kind of take their next step. We'll talk about the number one thing that your content should fulfill so that it's actually a successful social media strategy. Um, we'll look at, and this is where it's going to get most practical, the 5 different types of content that I think are most useful to apply. And I'll share with you how to use them. And yeah, the end is going to be kind of like a summary of everything we talked about. So it's going to be the 6 main ingredients for a successful social media strategy. I'll also share with you in the end how I can help you further implement. So that's for those of you who are interested in further working with me. And for those who are not, it can be a nice opportunity to just see how I talk about my offer. So I think you'll be able to take something with you from that regardless. Now, I also want to make clear what we will not cover. So um, my strength lies in sharing strategies and principles, and not so much like fill in the blank swipe files, or like, oh, this is the best way to use Instagram stories. This is the best way. So I speak more from a strategy perspective. And so the invitation for you is to see how can you apply that to your unique situation. I'm not saying it's bad for people to teach, like, or to give swipe files, or say like create, like, use this post, here's a template. Um, the risk is that you kind of lose your personal touch in it, that you apply something and it's not really you. It's like you're just kind of repeating what somebody else is doing. Yeah, so the things that I'll be sharing are more strategy based. They're still super applicable. It's just that I'm inviting you to check how does that apply to your unique situation and to learn from experience. So if there's things that I say here of like what works, what doesn't work, and you try something out for a while, or you try something out that I didn't write and it works, that's what matters. Like, don't get stuck on what I say. I want you to have things that actually work for your unique case. So, what, yeah, for the rest of this masterclass, I'm going to speak to those of you most directly who already have some sort of offer. You're already working with people and you're getting good feedback, you're getting good results. Um, this is something that I've seen that pretty much all of my clients, kind of what brings them together is embodiment is really important to you. That doesn't mean that like what you teach or work on with your clients is necessarily embodiment, but it's really important in your life. And so it's not that I talk about it so much explicitly, but it's like something implicit that always runs with the stuff that I talk about is, yeah, embodiment is super important for me as well. The next thing is you really care about showing up authentically. That goes for social media, but that goes for your whole life. So you want to find a way to be visible with your business in a way that feels like a deep expression of who you are and not like, uh, okay, let me do those 3 steps to get clients, but actually losing yourself in the process. The next thing is that beyond having a successful business, you are here to have an impact. Like you wanna be a contribution to a better life. Um, and even beyond just the clients that you work with, like you want to be a positive impact in this world. And there's like a larger drive that you have beyond, oh, I want to have a successful business is like, I want to contribute. I'm here for a reason. There are gifts that I have to share. And even if it's sometimes scary or vulnerable to do that, I feel dedicated to actually make that happen. And the last thing is you are an implementer. So none of the stuff that I will talk about here will get you any further if you don't implement, right? So this is, and I see this a lot, like it's a missing ingredient in many places is, it's nice to listen to something and be inspired, but it doesn't make a difference unless you actually apply it. Because in the process, you will also see that you will have to find your unique way with what is being taught. Now, if not all of those things apply to you, that's completely fine. Like you don't have to leave the call or stop the recording or something like this. Um, I just want to make clear who I speak to primarily so that you can also discern if I say certain things and some of those things don't apply to you, to discern whether this still makes sense to you or not. Like I see, for example, Oliver is here and he wants to create an app. So generally, who I talk to is someone who's offering a service. Now, it will still be super valuable, the stuff that I'm sharing for Oliver, but still, it's good to keep in mind that this is what I'm focusing on. All right. I'll share a little bit about myself. So I've been in the world of online marketing since 2017. That's when I quit university. I was studying psychology, and I went on an entrepreneurial journey. I started a blog. Um, I went into men's work. So I started working as a men's coach. I did a big online summit in 2018 with a couple of thousand participants. And yeah, for the last like year and a half, I've worked as a somatic business coach. So just over time, more and more of the people that I worked with were self-employed and wanted support in their business. Then also women started approaching me. So about a year ago, I kind of fully rebranded to being a business coach. And in all this time, Facebook has been my main platform of lead generation. Lead generation meaning how do new people come into my world and eventually some of them my clients. Um, and the first few years, I had no idea how to sell, and I felt very resistant to selling because most of the stuff that I see out there is done in a way that to me does not feel congruent, that to me feels kind of pushy or it's coming from a place of yeah, like I want something from you rather than like, hey, here's something super valuable for the right person, and I want to make sure that if like I want to help you make the right decision. I don't want to help you buy, I want to help you make the right decision. So, the first few years, I was posting a lot of stuff. I was creating a lot of videos, and actually, quite a lot of people liked my stuff. Um, but I didn't have a clear offer, and I felt uncomfortable selling it. So, and then I tried a lot of different stuff, and I had some results, but it hasn't been longer than like 2 years that I feel like, okay, now things are dialed in, and I know what I'm doing, and I'm getting consistent results from what I'm putting in. Yeah, and two other things that are important to me is so one thing is I really care about a nervous system friendly approach to anything really, but in this particular case to business and to being on social media. Um, yeah, I mean, most of us when we are in social media, we're crazily overwhelmed. Um, we don't feel connected to who we are, and that's just not a good place to be in. And so I'm also really interested in how can I, as a creator, and obviously you who are joining the masterclass, um, how can you show up on social media in a way that, that is nervous system friendly for you, that you stay connected to yourself? Yeah, and the last thing that I want to share, I had to smile when I put this in because I usually don't talk about, like, I consider myself to be a highly sensitive man. I don't really talk about it because I find the term somewhat disempowering, as in like it creates a label that obviously never encapsulates a whole person. Like I have sides of me that are not highly sensitive, that are sort of the opposite. But I thought it would be useful to put it here because being highly sensitive and being on social media is quite the challenge. So it's been quite the journey for me to figure out, okay, how can I be present on social media in a way that I don't constantly feel overwhelmed or, all of the other things that it might bring up. So yeah, I felt like it would help for context to where I'm coming from and, yeah, maybe also why I'm using some of the strategies and not others. I want to share with you a story, that felt really meaningful to me. So this is the story of starting to work to do coaching together with my client Evan. Um, think we started in 2018. He was one of the first people who bought something off of me, not knowing me at all personally. So only having gotten to know me online. And I thought back about it now in preparing the masterclass and just thought about how crazy that is that we live in a world where that's possible, where we show up on the internet with, what feels meaningful to us, and then people who we've never met actually buy from us. Like it's such an incredible thing that this is possible. And Evan actually is a long-term client. We recently had our 100th session. And if you want to hear a bit more about him in the Spiritual Entrepreneurs Hub, the Facebook group, I did an interview with him a couple of weeks or months ago where, yeah, we talked about how his income doubled through the work that we did. So he's awesome. And yeah, it was cool to think back to that. And this, yeah, I mean, this is kind of a rephrase of what I just said. Like, the power of the internet is that people with similar interests who are maybe like a very, like tiny minority in this world actually find each other, right? Like if you think about the time before the internet, if you were interested in something that no one around you was interested in, that sucked. Like you had no way to be in touch with people with similar interests. And so it just really makes me appreciate the internet and the opportunity that it provides also for us as creators and entrepreneurs to actually connect to our ideal client, to the clients that say, wow, I'm so glad that I found your work. And just to share briefly what I think is is different in my approach from what I see most business coaches do out there. So one thing I put a lot of focus on is playing my game, and this goes obviously for me, but also my clients, meaning there is no one strategy or way of doing business that works for everyone, because even if it gets you good results, if you're not feeling like you're playing your game, meaning like you're in your zone of genius and your creativity and joy, then why the fuck are we doing it? Like if your business is not an expression of who you are, we don't need to fucking do it. Um, and like what that means for me is I really I love having fun on social media and like sharing like really unpolished stuff of myself. Because yeah, just like not being like the classical influencer who's like doing those pretty pictures on the beach or whatever. Um, and just super fancy pictures. It's just not my way. Like I'm a creator. I love the messy process, and that's how I show up. I'm also kind of a weirdo and I don't hide it. So I really enjoy just being myself on social media. The next thing is, and that's actually something I wouldn't say that of myself, but it's something that I hear from my clients a lot, that that's one thing that they really appreciate about me is um, the stuff that I share is not just coming from the mind. Like, I don't just share stuff that's like, oh, here's a cool concept. Those are things that I've tried myself and they live inside of my body and my nervous system. And what that does, I think, is like a different transmission. Like it lands a bit deeper than if it's just a thought. And the last thing is, I'm a huge fan of strategy. And at the same time, I find it super important to always stay receptive to what actually happens when we apply a strategy. And can we uh, can we stay flexible with the information that comes up to adapt our strategy? And so what I see out there is either a strategy that's like quite rigid, like this is how you do it, or it's like whatever, like just manifest abundance or, like things that have completely no substance and is all about inner work. And I really care about where do these two actually come together? Okay, one last thing before we go into more the meat of the masterclass is um, I really care about my work and I mean, anything that I do in my life to be dedicated to something greater than me. And it doesn't matter how you want to call that. You can call it God or the universe or life or any other name. I don't care. Um, but this is really important for me in all parts of my life. But since this is now part of my business, it's important for my work to remember the greater context in which I'm doing this. And that for me is to share my gifts with the world and contribute in my unique way to something greater than just myself. And yeah, I'm just going to take a breath here to remember that. If you feel like joining me in that, you're very welcome to. I find it really, yeah, just a beautiful way to put things into perspective. Like, why am I doing this? All right. Well, let's get the party started even more. Um, gonna talk about the 5 most common mistakes entrepreneurs make on social media. And again, I'm not gonna, yeah, well, I'm just gonna name them. And by the end of the masterclass, you'll probably have answers to how to do it better. So one thing that I see quite a lot that is a challenge that also most of my clients have is that they're interested in a lot of different things. Um, like not just interested in different things, but also they offer different kind of things. And then they talk about all these different offers, which can become really confusing as a follower because it's like uh, there's not like a clear thread of like, okay, what is this person actually about? Unless, of course, you've really thought it through and you've kind of, I'm not saying it's wrong to offer different things at once. I'm saying it takes some strategy and some clarity on how they fit in with each other and maybe to also have a sequence of like, okay, let me start with this. Let me position myself first as that, and then going into different directions. So anyway, this is one thing that I see is like people offering different things, and it just creates more confusion in their followers because it's just a lot of stuff, and your followers don't understand how it all fits together, even though you may. The next thing is teaching only. So only creating content that is about educating your audience and sharing your expertise. Um, Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to say to that. It's also what I did for a really long time, like just trying to share my wisdom. One thing that happens then is that it creates a like a hierarchical relationship where you're always putting yourself in the position of the expert. And my experience is it's not actually helpful for making sales because, and we'll talk about this later more, that when people buy from you, they also buy from you because they can relate to you. Like they can feel like, yeah, I can identify with David, or yeah, I feel like we're similar on some levels, or I feel understood. So if we only teach, there's not that much relationship happening, and people might think that you're smart, but it does not tend to lead to, I mean, it works. There's some people who do that, but it's definitely not the most effective way to turn your audience into buyers. Now, this goes into the next thing, which is not sharing who you are on social media, like kind of holding your private life away and being only in the professional mode. Um, what that leads to is that there's something missing for the people to actually get a clear feeling of who you are so that they can decide, okay, do I trust this person? Do I want to hang out more with this person or not? The next thing is not having a clear offer, and even if having one, not inviting people in. So this is something that I also see quite a lot of people do is like they're sharing a lot of valuable content that actually gets a lot of feedback, a lot of resonance. Um, but either they don't have a clear offer that also relates to the content, where people can see, oh, well, if this person creates this kind of content, that means their offer must be good. Or they rarely talk about the work that they do. And so there's never that invitation for people who like your stuff to take the next step. And there will still be few people who will take that next step by themselves, but you're missing out on a lot of people who would love for you to invite them into the next thing. The next thing is not speaking to a specific audience. So if you tend to be too general and trying to reach everyone, no one will feel directly spoken to. No one will feel like, wow, Arati is really talking to me right now. Like I really feel recognized in what he's saying. And so uh, when that personal touch is missing, um, there's much less incentive for people to follow your content and take further steps because they cannot be sure that you're actually addressing them, that what the stuff that you're saying is actually applicable to them and their situation and their questions they have and so on. And then one bonus thing I want to share here is, and that is something that I actually see mostly with people from Europe. So this is not so much a topic when I work with American people, but it's a kind of false humility about your offer and not being able to like be excited about what you're offering and be confident about it and be like, this for the right person is fucking life changing. And not like overhyping stuff, but just being like, if the right person sees this, it will change their lives. Like, if you don't feel excited and confident about your offer, how should your clients do? They can't because you're the first person who has to feel like this is valuable. So yeah, we'll talk about this a bit later as well. I wanted to add it here as well. Okay. Um, so for a moment, I want to really zoom out with you, talk about what is the most important thing in marketing. And I would love to hear from you if you ask yourself, like, what does a potential client need to experience in relationship to you for them to buy? Obviously, no wrong answers. I'll share mine. Emotional connections, Zarati. Nice. Heart connection. Pleasure within the body. Nice. Trust. Cool. Trust is a good one. We'll talk a lot about trust. Nice. See if anyone else wants to chime in. Honesty. Yeah. Guess um I'll share what it is for me. Um and yeah, just to give credit where it's due, this is where I'm quite inspired by Seth Godin. He's a very famous marketer. Um so for me, the essence of marketing, of good marketing, is empathy. And the experience that a potential client needs to have, in my view, is um, to feel deeply understood and to almost feel better, like better understood that they understand themselves. Or to put differently, to be seen exactly where they are and what they desire and maybe what their fears are in the process. If we're able to do that through marketing, plus a couple of other things that we'll talk about, and there's a very high likelihood of people to buy. So, marketing is a lot about relationships, and I feel like all the things that you shared in the chat were kind of qualities of healthy relationship. Yeah, so that for me is the essence of marketing is like for someone to feel like, wow, Carla really understands me. Like she gets me and she sees where I am and she sees, my greatness and she also sees my challenges. So that makes it so much more likely for me to take a step towards Kala. Now, why do we feel resistance to selling? Both as like the person selling, um, but also the buyer. Kala likes to hear that. Nice. Um, So in my view, most like the way that marketing is being done a lot is very manipulative. And again, we can take the analogy of relationships. Like most relationships that we see in the world have some element of being manipulative and like trying to extract something from somebody else. And that goes especially for online marketing. Um, that the way things are being sold tend to be like quite pushy. There's like an urgency, like if you don't buy now, then, your life will suck forever, and this is your one opportunity to finally change. Um, and I mean, I definitely know for myself, I've developed a very strong bullshit detector. Like when I sense this kind of energy, I'm like, I'm out. Like I don't want any of this. And yeah, Marie-Christine says connection and trust. Nice. Yeah, beautiful. Um, One of my business mentors shared with me, his name is Nick Peterson. He shared with me um, the difference between selling from presence and selling from pressure. And you can look at it as a continuum, like it's not a black or white. But selling from pressure would be this, like it's very urgency focused. It's very much like, you know, sticking your finger in the pain point of your people and saying like, if you want to change, like now is the time, kind of like putting a lot of pressure out on the people. Now, the thing about pressure is it always creates a counterforce. So just as like a physical law, like when you put pressure on something, it creates a counterforce. And so that is a lot of how like why selling, well, like why this whole field is kind of messed up is because it's coming a lot from pressure, and pressure always creates counter pressure. Like if someone pushes you, most likely your initial response would be like to push back. Selling from presence is very different. Selling from presence is I'm here. I have something super valuable to offer for the right person, but I'm not going to push you in any way to make that choice. I might make it, I might give you an incentive to make a decision. Like, for example, what people do is like early bird price or something like that. That's fine. That can still be selling from presence. It matters like what state you're coming from energetically. And the crazy thing is, when you sell from presence, you don't create counter resistance. So selling from presence, even though it looks much less like flashy and like there's less, um, things that you bombard potential clients with, in the long run, it's way more effective. Because even if you sell to someone from pressure, is it going to be the most healthy long-term relationship? Probably not. Okay, now if we zoom in a bit more, and you see already there are a couple of things that you mentioned in the chat before. If we zoom in a bit more of what does it take for someone to buy? Um, so one phrase that is kind of helpful is to say they need to know and like you, and they need to trust you. We'll get to the things in between as well. But so knowing and liking you is being like, okay, um, I kind of get the vibe of who Oliver is. And I could see myself spending time with him. Or like if I talk to other people about Oliver, I wanna associate myself with him. Like it feels good to me to talk about him and to put myself next to him. That is for me what knowing and liking is about. And so this is why when we don't share our personality at all on social media, that part will be missing, and it will be much, much less likely for people to buy from you because we tend to buy from people who are in some way like us, who we can identify with. Now, the trust part has three components. Because even if I know and like Marie-Christine, um, but I don't actually think that she can really help me with the challenge that I have, or that the offer that she's providing is actually the right fit for me, or I don't really trust that I would implement what Marie-Christine is showing me, then I will not buy. So the trust part is equally important to the know and like. And we'll talk about this a bit later as well, that helping people uh, experience trust on these three levels is huge. And most people don't know that this is not just like trusting you as a facilitator and trusting your offer, that it's also about they have to trust themselves. Because if they don't trust that they are able to take that step and take something with you from working with you, even if they think you're the greatest person, they're not going to do it. And then those in between things are they need to be aware that there's something they want to change in their lives. Okay, Marie-Christine says, thanks for taking me as an example. That is my social media problem. Can you say more in the chat what you mean by what is your social media problem? We'll get to it in a second. Um, I, as a potential client, need to be aware that there's something I want to change in my life. There's some challenge that I'm facing, and I have a desire for it to change. if I'm only aware that something is not the way I want it to be, but I don't have a desire for change, I'm more like in the victim place, I'm not going to be a buyer. Um, and I also need to know that there is a solution for what I'm looking for, because otherwise I'm just like, yeah, it sucks right now. I would love it to be different, but there's no way for me to get somewhere else. So our offer has to be positioned in a way that they understand that this is actually a solution to the challenge that they are facing. Okay. She's saying, I know a lot of people know and like me and also trust me, but my content is not clear enough to get them buying booking. Okay, awesome. You're gonna love the rest of the masterclass. And if there's still something unclear, then please bring it into the Q&A. Yeah, thanks for sharing. Okay, let's look at the three different groups that are part of everyone's audience and what it takes for each of those groups to take the next step. So there's a good chance you've heard these terms before. So you have like your cold audience, your warm audience, and your hot audience. Again, you can look at it as a spectrum, and we just divide it for simplicity's sake into three parts. Cold audience is someone who either doesn't know you or like just got to know you. So they just became aware that Kala exists. That would be considered cold. Like they neither know or like you, nor do they trust you. If they get to know you a bit better and if they get a sense of your vibes and the kind of stuff, like what do you find funny, where do you hang out, what kind of beliefs do you have, they're going to start to know and like you. And that is what we would consider a warm audience. They might already start being aware of what you're offering, what you're standing for, but they're not in a place yet to be like, okay, bam, I definitely want to work with Kala. They're more like, yeah, I know what Kala is doing. I think it's pretty cool. Maybe I'll work with her someday, but yeah, I think now is not the right time. And then you have your hot audience, and you can look at them as like the low-hanging fruits. They're like ready to buy. If you just give them a good enough offer, they're they're so close to starting to work with you. They already know you, they like you, they feel comfortable feeling associated with you, and they trust that what you're doing is valuable. So now, if you present them an offer that makes sense to them, there's a very high chance for them to buy. Now, how people go through this journey from cold to hot, obviously, some people just stay with cold. Like some people look at my Facebook profile and are like, I'm not interested. So they're just cold. Um, and some people obviously go all the way through from cold to hot and becoming a buyer. The pace in which people do that is highly different. So there are people, one of my business mentors in May, she says it's kind of like dating. Like some people take 5 years before they marry someone from the first time they meet, and some people marry after 2 days, and there's no right and wrong there. Just the pace that people go through this is different. So just be aware that there are some people who can very quickly go from cold to hot. If, maybe they've done some work already before and they're already thinking about how they can solve their thing, then they see what you're doing, they check out some of your content, and boom, they're ready. And other people might be in your audience for half a year before they're even ready to join a free masterclass like this one. So just to keep in mind that the pace in which people go through this is very different and is unique to every person. All right. What do we do for each of these groups in our audience? So again, with our hot audience, that is the low-hanging fruit. All we need to do is have a good enough offer that they see, and there's a very high chance they will buy. With your warm audience, what you want to do is you want to provide value. So you want to continue building on the relationship and show that what you're doing is valuable. You want to show that you understand where they're at and that what you're doing actually would help them. And one really powerful way, and we'll talk about this a bit later as well, is to be in conversation. So this is one of the things that I would love for you to take away from this masterclass is find ways to be more in conversation with your audience. Because the moment that people are no longer just consumers of what you do, but they start being in touch with you directly, um, the likelihood of them taking a further step towards you and buying is much, much higher. I'm going to share with you also some ways how you can create conversations. And for your cold audience or for people who are kind of new to you, it's almost like don't worry about them too much. Just keep on showing up. Like one of the things that they need to see is that you're serious about what you're doing and you're consistent. So they will be on the sidelines. They might look at you a bit more like, I don't know who this is. I don't know if I like them. And if you show up consistently, um, they will at some point start engaging more. And at some point you can get into conversation with them. And there's a good chance that at some point they will be actually buyers. And again, this can be a matter of a week or it can be a matter of a year. It's very different for each person. All right. The number one thing your content should fulfill. I'd love again to hear from you in the chat. What do you think is the one thing that your content should accomplish? And to make your audience buy doesn't count. Like I'm asking more of what needs to be communicated to your client or to your potential client. Inspire or wake up, value, solving a problem for the client. Okay. Yeah, those are good. Attention. Okay. Nice. All right. Well, desire. Okay, so what I'll be sharing will be quite different from what you're saying. Idea of next step. That's an interesting one. Okay, so what I'm going to share with you is the so-called domino statement. I think this goes back to Russell Brunson, who's a very famous marketer. And the domino statement, it's called that because it's like the big domino that if this one falls, there's a good chance that there's like a chain reaction at the end of which your client will decide to work with you. And that domino statement is something like this. I mean, these are kind of my own words, but it's something like if you can clearly show your client that what they desire is possible and that what you are offering is the best way to actually make that happen, they will gladly buy. If you can clearly show your client that number one, their desire is possible, what they want is actually, it's not just like a faint dream. Because think about it, like having a desire where you're not sure whether that's actually possible or not, that feels really vulnerable. That feels like, well, maybe it's just like a castle in the sand, like, nothing will ever happen. So you show them in different ways. You also embody that what they desire is possible. And second thing, you show them that your offer is the most effective way for them to get to what they desire. And so this is a thing that I see very few people understand how to do. Because let's say you're a yoga teacher. There are millions of yoga teachers out there. Like, why the fuck would anyone want to work with you? They can choose for so many. They can do yoga with Adrienne on YouTube all day long for free. Why would they want to work with you? And so this is where empathy comes in, and the essence of marketing is you need to know your ideal client really well so that you can show them and communicate to them that your way is the best way for them to reach what they want. It doesn't mean it's absolutely the best offer. It's to your ideal client. It's the best way to get there. So for example, with my work, I can say there are lots of business coaches out there, but personally, I don't know any business coach who connects the qualities of embodiment and business strategy the way that I do. Maybe they exist, but I don't know them. And so this is the place where I feel really comfortable and confident that I can help people who really care about embodiment and doing business in a nervous system friendly way, who want to have very clear strategies to grow their business. And this I feel super confident about. So if I'm in front of the right person, I know how I can communicate that what I'm offering, if they want to grow their business, I can help them. And what is in the way of people believing that? It's objections. And objections are like thoughts that pop up into people's minds as they follow your content, as they read your stuff, as they maybe look at your sales page. And objections are things like, it sounds nice, but it's too expensive. Or, well, I don't have the time right now. So time and money are kind of like those are the like the classic objections that no matter what you're offering will always to some degree be a topic. And then we have those three levels that we talked about before. Like one area of objection is like about you as a facilitator. The next one is about your offer, and the third one is about themselves. So, well, I really like what Carla is doing, but I see her working primarily with women who are self-employed. Well, actually, that would be more of an objection about themselves. Like, oh, I'm not self-employed. Well, then this offer doesn't work for me. Um, Let me think of some examples from my own world. Okay, so well, I like what David is doing as a business coach, but he's younger than me. I'm not sure I want to work with someone as a business coach who is actually younger than me. Maybe he doesn't have enough experience to actually be able to help me. Um, or David's offer sounds nice, but I think that with the challenges that I have, I would need much more one-on-one calls. Like the number of one-on-one calls he has, that I think wouldn't work with me. Or oh, Carla is offering a group program. Yeah, I think for where I'm at, I actually need a one-on-one program, right? And so some objections are obviously like actually good reasons for people not to join our program, but many objections are mind fucks, are like reasons we're holding ourselves back from taking the next step. Like, one thing that I encounter sometimes is, oh, I I would like to work with you. I think you could help me, but I've had some bad experience with business coaches before. Like I've worked with them and it just didn't feel right and it didn't really help me. Is that a good reason not to work with me? From my view, no, it's not, but it needs to be addressed. And I completely understand that people have that experience. Okay. So you have those three main areas of objection. One is about you as a facilitator. The second is about your offer. And the third is about themselves. And so uh, I want you to think about, and you've probably heard those objections as well when you've talked to potential clients. What do they say when they're not sure whether they should join? Those are your objections. And I'm going to share with you in a second, I don't know if it's the next slide or a bit later, how those objections can be like the most powerful content that you can generate. There we go. It's here already. So now I want to bring us back to the context of social media and just understand that these platforms, like their nature is the way it is. It's a bit different from email marketing. It's very different from uh, sending direct mail. It's very different from meeting people at a whatever in-person gathering. So our attention spans and these things will not be new to you, but they're really good to keep in mind for you as the creator. So people have a really short attention span on social media. We have to make so many fucking decisions when we spend time on social media in a really short amount of time. And obviously, most of that happens subconsciously. Like the way we decide what we continue reading or what we continue watching. And that's why social media is also so exhausting because we have to make so many decisions very quickly. Um, so what we want to do as creators is we have to make what we're doing and the stuff that we're putting out relevant as quickly as possible. You have like when someone reads your post, you have a couple of seconds, and if you caught their attention, then they're going to continue, and if you didn't catch their attention, they're gone. And same goes for when they go on your Facebook profile. If they don't understand what it is that you're offering and what could be like maybe a next thing that they could be doing, if they're interested in more within, let's say, 5 seconds, they're most likely gone. Now, there's the energetic part of it that is just you show up with who you are, like you're being real, and people will feel that, and then there's a bigger chance for people to stay. But there's also like a more of the strategic part of like how do you talk about things? Do you have a sentence in your profile where you say like, "Hey, this is who I'm helping, and here's what you can do if you need your next step." Um, so we have to find ways to stand out with what we're doing. Because again, probably no matter what you do, there are other people who are doing something very similar. So people subconsciously need to make that decision. Why is what Arati doing in any way different from the stuff that other people are doing? Why is the women's work that Marilise is often offering? Why should I follow that instead of the million other women's coaches out there? Now, one thing that we tend to forget is that social media is so much about building relationships and showing up consistently. And again, that's why I emphasize like if you find ways to generate conversations, it's the most powerful way to bring people to buy from you. And the last thing is um, because our attention span is super short and there's so much information that we're taking in when we're scrolling through Instagram or Facebook. Um, Most of the time, people need to see the same thing several times before they actually make a decision. So there are these rules of thumb of like someone needs to see what you're offering 7 times before they make a decision. Does that apply to every person? No. Does it apply to some people? Yeah. Is it better to put your stuff out there more often at the risk that few people might find it annoying, but other people finally make their decision? Yeah, it's totally worth it. Right? So understanding that people need the repeat exposure to actually make a decision. Now, what does that mean practically? Okay, so when you brainstorm those objections that we talked about on the last slide about you, about your offer, and about them, you can use those objections to create titles. And if those objections are actually things that people are actively thinking about, they will be interested because it will feel like you're speaking, their minds. So let me give you an example from myself. One thing that I help entrepreneurs with is to no longer just charge hourly for what they're offering. I help them create what I call a transformational offer, which is like a bigger container to work with clients on a specific transformation. Usually it's higher priced, let's say 2,000 or above. Now, what people might think is like, well, David, that sounds nice. I currently charge 80 euros per session, and that already feels edgy. So how the fuck should I sell anything that's this expensive? And then I can say, I can create the title. Here's why selling a 2,000 euro transformational offer is actually easier than selling sessions for 80 euros. Now, obviously, that has to be true. Like, I actually have to believe that, otherwise, I don't do it. But if that's the thinking that they have, they will be instantly hooked. They will be like, wait, what? I thought it would be way harder to sell something for 2,000 euros. And now you're telling me it's easier. Now I'm intrigued, right? So you use those objections and you turn them around. You basically say, hey, I know you're thinking this, but here's why that is actually not accurate. Here's why actually the opposite is true. Let's take another example. Okay, just because I see Kala here and I know part of the work that she's doing is helping women connect more to pleasure and their body. So one thing that could come up for women is like, um, my life is already so full. I feel like if I were to focus to bring more pleasure and to like take time for that, I would just feel more stressed. It would actually make my life fuller and less enjoyable. So then Carla could say, well, let me tell you from my experience that if you actually take time to connect to your body and do these things, you will feel so much more spacious. You will be able to do the same things and maybe even more than what you did before in a much more relaxed way. So there's no reason why you shouldn't take time, right? Like this old saying that meditate every day for 10 minutes, and if you don't have time, then meditate 1 hour every day. So that's how we use the objections. When it comes to your profile, um, people need to, as I said before, be able to make a decision whether what you're doing is relevant or not within a couple of seconds. So make sure that, and you can actually ask friends to do that. Hey, if you go on my profile, do you know what I'm offering and who it's for within a couple of seconds, yes or no? And if no, then find ways to adapt that. Create more conversations. I feel like I'm repeating myself here. And the last thing is, so that's connected to the repeat exposure. Um, Create consistent invites, meaning talk about your offer and the next step that people can take often. Don't assume that just because you've posted something once that people now know. They won't. And um, again, I'd rather piss off a couple of people who see my invitation for the sixth time than pay the price of someone not joining because they didn't see the first 5 times. And um, of course, like this is also an energy thing. Like, what kind of place am I doing this from? Am I coming from desperation? I'm like, oh my God, please finally buy. Or am I saying, like, hey, I'm still here. This is still happening. I'm still excited about it. Let's go. Right. So, but like the hard thing, and it's so interesting. The hard thing, did I talk to Soraya about this? No, maybe not. Um, I consider myself a very empathetic person, and the people I work with, highly empathic people. But to really put yourself in the shoes of the other person, and really understand that how you look at your offers is not how everyone else is looking at it. And just because you feel like you're repeating yourself might not mean at all that it feels like a repetition to the people who are following you, because maybe the first 2 times you talked about it, they didn't fully understand it. And finally, when you explained the same concept the third time, they finally understood, right? So we always look at everything from our own perspective, but your audience has a very different perspective, has a very different lens. And so this thing of being consistent and repeating the stuff, repeating the most important concepts, repeating the invitations that you're putting out there is really, really important. Let's do a quick time check. Oh wow, we're already at an hour. Okay. I think we have we have this slide, and then we have the kind of summary of this. So I think we'll take about 10, we'll definitely need 10 more minutes. Obviously, if you need to go earlier, that's completely fine. You can always catch the recording. Um, okay, now we're getting really practical, or even more practical. 5 different types of content and how you can use them. Credits here go to one of my business mentors, May Drost. She shared this acronym with me. The acronym is TABLE, so that's how you can remember it. Just the first letter of the 5 types of content. So they are trust, activate, buy, love, and love is like the combination of know and like, which we talked about before. The last one is engage. Let's go through them. Trust is about it's about the 3 levels that we talked about: trust in you and your offer and in themselves. So this is a really important one. A really cool way to do that is testimonials. And testimonials don't have to be like a 1 hour conversation with a client. It can be really small, and it can also be really subtle. Like, hey, I'm just hopping off of a one-on-one call that I had, and here's a really powerful insight my client had, right? That's like the B message is I work with clients and they're having results. It's also really cool to have like long form testimonials. It can also be really small, like, hey, I'm celebrating this small win that one of my clients just had. hey, here's this woman in my mastermind, and this is how her business grew in the first 3 months. Yay. Part of trust is teaching, is showing that you know what you're talking, like you know what you're talking about, and it's handling objections on all these different levels. Activate is where you call people up who are ready. So this is where you would say, listen, I know you feel called to grow your business in a nervous system friendly way. I know you're called to be more connected to your body and your pleasure in your day-to-day life. And you communicate like, hey, you're ready to take that step. It's time for you to make that further step. So this is kind of like calling them up, communicating that, yo, it's time to make a move. And it's like igniting that passion or helping them connect to this desire inside of them. Then there are like content pieces that are around buying. So this is very simple. Like, hey, this is, I'm offering this, it's happening then, or you have 3 more days to join this and that. So just very simple reminders that something is happening. And how they can take their next step, how they can buy. I'll also say that sometimes, or very often actually, you'll create pieces of content where you will have more of these aspects within one piece of content. So I'm not saying that every piece of content is clearly just in one of these buckets, but it's really helpful as an overview to be like, am I using all of those? So then the love posts are where you just share your values. You share, that can be something like sharing in your stories, something that you're reading, that you're hanging out in nature right now and you're really enjoying, or uh, you can share your opinions on things that are far outside of your business. So just things where people can get more of a sense of like, who is Arati and what does he actually stand for, right? So this is a great chance um, to support the knowing and liking. And that's like the love posts, those like the people who only teach, they don't do any of those. They don't share anything of their personality. And then the last one is engage. So this is where we create conversations, which is also helping our potential clients take next steps. So one really powerful way to do that is a two-step post, which is saying, hey, so for example, for this masterclass, I said, hey, I'm hosting a social media strategy masterclass. Want to join? Drop something in the comments. So then they drop something in the comments, and then I send them a message saying like, hey, cool, you're interested in this. Here's further info. So two steps because it's not just like, here's information, click on this, but it's like, hey, respond. And then there's another thing that's going to happen after. And it's a great conversation starter because now we're on Messenger and we're talking to each other. So then after the masterclass, I can be like, hey, how was the masterclass for you? Love to hear from you. Other ways to do that are questions. So just asking questions to your audience or creating polls. Like a month ago or something, I created a poll asking, hey, what would you love to learn the most? And it was actually social media strategy. So just giving people opportunities to engage with your content. Obviously, if you have in the end of a post, say like, hey, let me know in the comments if this or that, that would also be a way to create engagement. Now, uh, I'm actually creating a separate document where I have examples for each of those types of content. I decided not to put them in the masterclass for the sake of brevity. If you want this document, and this is actually a really nice way for me to be meta and say this is a way to engage, send me a message either on Facebook or an email with bonus, and I'll send you that document. And for the people watching the masterclass in the Facebook group, you can comment bonus, and I'll send that to you. So those are the different types of content to play with. Um, yeah, I mean, there's lots more to say about this, but it can be just a nice way to see like, oh, I haven't done any of this recently, or oh, let me try this for once. Cool. We're almost at the end. So this will be kind of like a summary of what we've been talking about. So those are the 6 ingredients for a successful social media strategy. First is you got to have a clear offer. Your profile has to be optimized, meaning people can very quickly get a sense of, okay, is what Marie-Christine offering relevant for me? Yes or no? You want to speak to a specific client. You don't want to just say, um, here's something that uh, I'm cautious to say this because I just talked to Soraya about this, and so she's going to disagree. But here's something that every woman should know about their menstrual cycle. It can work, but it's much more powerful to be like, hey, if you've had these challenges with your menstrual cycle, then, and if you've had this and this, and if you had this question, and if you've wondered whether you would ever experience this, like a period without cramps or whatever, here's what's worked for me. You're showing so much more empathy when you're able to address a certain group of people specifically with the challenges they have, the questions they have, worries they have, and so on. Soraya doesn't disagree. I'm glad. Um, you use your content to handle the objections that you know some of your potential clients have. Again, objections on the three levels about you, about your offer, about themselves. And you turn those objections into titles and say, hey, you might be thinking this. Here's why that's actually not true. And people will feel really understood when you do this kind of stuff. Now, the last thing of this list of six is this conviction that I talked about in the beginning. So being able to say with confidence that my offer is the best, not for everyone, but it's the best for you if you're here and here and here. And this is what I help you with, and it's fucking awesome. And then on wow, I feel like on every slide I've written down creating conversations. So I'm not gonna say it now. But maybe as a last thing, the consistency piece is super important. So um, of course, social media can be really quick in the sense that people get to know you and buy from you quickly. But if you want to have a sustainable social media strategy, it's a lot about showing up consistently because there will be a lot of people who are watching from the sidelines. And after a long time, they will be like, hey, wow. Like people say to me, like, holy shit, like I saw 6 years ago you were doing the men's work stuff and you're still here. That's impressive. Like it just creates trust when we show up consistently. All right, I'll say it again. Creating conversations is really important in your social media strategy. Um, Mostly because when we just follow somebody's content, we can never be sure that they actually mean us, right? Like, oh, it sounds nice and it kind of resonates. But the moment there's a conversation, you know they mean you. Like they're actually directly in touch with you. So, um, yeah, creating conversations. All right. So, as we're wrapping up this masterclass, I want to share with you how I can further implement you this stuff. In the next slide I share, I'll also show you kind of visually where the social media strategy fits into the stuff that I uh, work on with my clients. So what I'm currently offering is called the Elevate Your Business Coaching Program. It's a mixture of a group and one-on-one program. It means there are some one-on-one calls there and also group calls. And it's relevant for you if you already have good results with the work that you're doing. Um, you have raving fans or you have clients who really appreciate your work. You feel dedicated to serve your clients in the best possible way. So for you, it's not just like a simple transaction and like, okay, let's do a session and it's done. You're like, I want to find the most powerful way to support my clients. You're interested in going beyond just charging hourly rates. So this is like one of the core pieces of what I help my clients with is that I have found that creating a transformational offer, which is like a larger container where you work with a client or a group on a specific transformation where it's very clear what you're working on, that it's much more powerful than saying, oh, let's do business coaching sessions. Here's my hourly price. The energy is very different. And the transformational offer also really honors the energetic investment that it takes for you to work with someone. Because in hourly rates, you just get paid for the like hour that you sit with your client. But in my experience, the investment is much bigger. Like I carry my clients with me, whether I'm, spending time with them or not. And the transformational offer also financially really honors that. If you want to learn more about transformational offers, I have a masterclass on this called Step Away from Hourly Rates. If you want to get access to that, you can send me a message and say hourly rates, and I'll tag you in the right place. You've already tried different kind of promo strategies. You've tried showing up on social media. Maybe you've had newsletter list. You've tried different stuff. It's worked somewhat, but you feel like you want to have very clear strategies, like a system you can rely on. And it's really important for you to have a nervous system friendly way of operating in your business. So you don't want to burn out. You don't want to do something that, you know, gets you good results for 3 months, but then afterwards you need a half year break because it's so exhausting. You want to find a way to really enjoy what you're doing, for it to feel like, wow, this is an expression of who I am. It's awesome. And I get to serve my clients and I don't sacrifice myself in the process. So I currently have two options of how you can work with me inside of Elevate. One is a 5 month option, and the other is a 12-month option. You get 5 or 12 one-on-one calls with me. And then we have weekly Q&A calls with all of my clients who are in Elevate. It's really fun, and it's also cool to see how they're supporting each other. And because everyone is going through a similar process, yeah, I feel like they feel really understood by spending time also with each other. I'm also available in between calls, either through our client community, but also through Telegram if you need any kind of feedback on stuff you're creating. There are a couple of worksheets that we're working through in this process. And just to give you a sense of like what does the journey look like when I work with someone, um, the first thing that I help people do is create a transformational offer. Um, some people already have a transformational offer, and then we kind of just edit it and make it more powerful. Um, but yeah, first thing is we start with the inner foundation of how do you need to be and show up to actually consistently sell a higher priced offer. We'll look at what is your positioning, like who is your ideal client, and how can you make sure that you're positioned in a way that they understand that you're a perfect match for them. Um, we structure your offer and we create a first draft, and then we validate the offer in the market, and we do that through market research interviews. So you talk to uh, potential clients in your audience, and you get a closer sense of like how do they talk about their challenges. Uh, and kind of like check, okay, is this offer that we started creating, is this the right track? Does it need to be adapted? Once we've done that, we go into starting to sell the transformational offer. So we develop a unique launch strategy for how you get your first clients in. I usually like to call in like first beta testers because it takes off a bit the pressure of like it has to be perfect already. You're like, no, hey, I have this new thing, and you can join this for a bit of a lower rate. And the powerful thing about this is you very quickly get feedback about your offer. So um, we can think about and like work on the wording of our offers for months, but the most powerful thing is to actually work with clients, because there you see what works, what doesn't work, what needs to be adapted, and so on. And then the third part is developing a sales strategy. And this is where what we just talked about is like one part of this. So obviously I don't want you to just sell to your beta testers. I want you to sell consistently. And for most of my clients, that means developing a social media strategy. So a lot of the stuff that we just talked about. One thing to keep in mind is that what we are talking about now is for the most part inbound marketing, meaning this is how you talk to people who are already in your audience. To some degree, it was outbound, but there are better strategies because outbound marketing is how can new people come into your audience. And so if we just do inbound marketing, we might warm up our audience to buy, but there's not new people coming in. So at some point you will run out of potential buyers. So it's important to also have an outbound strategy. And then the last part, and this is more for people who join the 12-month container, is we start working on your offer suite. So you don't just have your transformational offer. You have like different offers, differently priced. Some can be free, some can be lower priced, some can be like mid-priced. And the goal is that they all start leading into your transformational offer. The way that I look at it is like a pyramid, and the transformational offer, it's like your most exclusive offer, most highest priced. And then we just create different pathways for people to get there. And so um, if you have like those different pathways, the more that you have of them that actually work, the more reliably you will sell because there will be different pathways that people can take into actually working with you. So yeah, that is Elevate. I love it. For the right person, it will change their lives. Just because I didn't mention the price. So the price for the 5 months is 3,750 euros. And for 12 months, it's 6,600 euros. And there's a possibility to like pay in monthly installments. So if that's relevant for you, if you're interested in that, you can send me a message. You can say Elevate, and we'll talk about whether this is the right fit for you. And if yes, then I would be super honored to work with you on growing your business. Um, yeah, this marks the end of the masterclass. Thanks so much for sticking with me over time. Wow, a lot over time. So big thank you. And yeah, I'll be here if you have any more questions, anything you'd like to ask, then feel free to unmute yourself and shoot it out. Otherwise, I wish you fantastic implementation of the strategies that I shared. May they serve you well.
Okay, so hi, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, cool. So thank you so much. Oh, do you want to read the comments first
No, that's fine.
before
Go
they
ahead.
leave? Okay, cool. So first of all, thank you so much. It was very, yeah, eye-opening in some points. I was like, yeah, I know. I've been telling this to myself. And I have one question and I want to share one thing. Well, I start with it with a sharing. I was absolutely shocked actually. You sent me a friend request and now I'm here in your masterclass. So this is the first time that happened.
Hmm.
Usually friend requests are like, oh, okay. I check them like very skeptically if I really
Yeah.
um wanna, how do you say, accept.
Yeah.
So yeah, so this was really eye-opening, like, oh my God, this can work.
Mm.
Because somehow your social media, I don't know, was your Facebook page was full of content that I liked. And I thought like, okay, let's look what this guy has to offer you. And then I saw this free masterclass. I'm like, okay, I'm in.
Mm.
So interesting. Thank you so much for this experience, first of all.
Beautiful. Yeah, let me just say, because I know Soraya
Yeah.
had the exact same experience. She was like,
Ah,
I
cool.
usually don't accept Facebook friend requests, but there was something real about you, I think you said.
Yeah.
Um, and this is just like, this is so cool because social media is so fucked up and most of the stuff sucks. It doesn't take
Yes.
that much to stand out.
Yeah.
So, it's kind of cool.
It was really, and I'm especially skeptical with men sending me friend requests. So I was like,
Hmm.
okay, who are you?
Hmm.
Actually, I liked your name. And I was like, okay, what so yeah. So that was super interesting. And yeah, I also realized how important it is to really get content. Yeah, whatever. No, value in the content. But I have a question. I like this two step, what did you say? Two-step
Two-step post.
post, two-step post, yes.
Yeah.
But why? What's the difference? I don't understand it. I never do it. I just say, write to me if you feel the call or something. And I
Yeah.
never say, put something in the comment because that feels so social media-y, like Instagram.
Okay.
Put a
So,
heart in the comment and then I'll DM you.
yeah.
It's not my language. So why?
Yeah, I get that. I mean, to some degree, what you're doing is a two-step post as well, but the thing is, what you don't capitalize on is that they create more engagement for your post. So it also creates social proof that
Mm,
people are actually, want to have the information. Um, I also found it weird in the beginning, but it really works. And
mm,
the most important thing is that you that people go through a hoop to get something, that you create like a
Yeah.
hurdle.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, send me a message is for some too big of a step, actually.
Mm.
It feels kind of like, well, what will happen once I send you a message?
Hmm.
So it can feel safer for people to put something in the comments and then you send them a message. And if for whatever reason they don't want to respond, they don't respond.
Yeah.
Happens.
Yeah.
But yeah, two-step posts are really powerful. I was also surprised.
Yeah. I will definitely try that. So thank you so much.
Awesome. And it's also cool because it's like permission-based marketing. It's like
Hmm.
I'm not sending you something you don't want, or I'm not saying click on this link. I'm saying if you want more info, let me know and I'll give it to you.
Yeah. Yeah. Beautiful. Cool. Thank you.
Well, thank you for chiming in, for joining. Any other questions before we hop off?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hey, David. Hello,
Hey.
everybody. I have a question. I mean, I sort of have my own answer, but I have so many offers. I do so many things like ecstatic dance, and then, the female empowerment training and sexuality and soul food, hormones. So it's like sometimes I am overwhelmed myself.
Now
But I
now imagine
know,
how your audience feels.
yeah. But the thing is, for me, it has one message. It's like, enjoying the fullness of life and really, experiencing life to the fullest. And um, yeah, but I do this every month, so it's really hard for me sometimes to like narrow it down to one thing. And I know that's why I'm confusing, I think, my clients, because
Yeah,
I have so many offers
yeah,
and I can't um I can't stop it. I,
yeah.
I love ecstatic dance and I love the other courses. So is there any tip you could give me in my business? I mean, it's working out well. I just feel it could be definitely more.
Yeah. So one thing you could look out for is what is the most powerful entry gate for people of your different offers? Like you don't have to offer everything on the front end. It could be that you're offering stuff more on the back end, meaning you talk about it more to people who are already on your list. You talk to people privately about it, and you can still mention it on your social media, but that you somehow develop like some sort of hierarchy of saying like, hey, this is what I stand for. This is like my main offer. I do some other things. If you want more info, let me know, or there will be opportunities, but like here's my main thing. So then
Yeah.
people feel oriented.
Mhm.
This is also relevant for like every specific offer. Um, like there's something about simplicity that really matters. For example, the work that I do is much more than creating and selling a transformational offer. But if I were to always communicate everything, it just confuses people. So I say, hey, the main thing I do is helping you create a transformational offer, sell it consistently. And once people are in, I show them all the other stuff that we do, like social media strategy, right? So one thing is you don't want to dial down all the different interests that you have because that's awesome and that makes you who you are. But you want to have empathy for your clients and like make it easy for them to take steps towards you and like have the right timing for when do you open up to more complexity. So that could be something to look into is like what is the easiest to sell?
Okay. Hmm.
And also like obviously like what do you enjoy most to sell? Like what feels most meaningful to you?
All of them. I love them all. I'm in love with them all. Yeah, but I think what I learned from you is also just setting priorities.
Yeah.
And for a certain time, this project is more important, so I'll just focus on that
Yes.
project and maybe leave the other things so in not to confuse myself and all the others also.
Yes, exactly. And
Yeah.
so what I would say is you can have it all and you can sort of be known for all these things, but it's tricky if you try to be known for all these things at once.
Yeah.
So it makes sense to like have a sequence in it.
Yeah. Thank you.
Great, you're welcome. All right. Any last questions? Well then, I wish you a fantastic rest of the day. Um, if you want to have access to the examples of content pieces, let me know and I'll send it to you probably by the end of this week. And yeah, happy implementing, happy growing your business, happy serving your clients.
Thank you so much. Take care. Bye bye.
Ciao, ciao.